Hi world. Big changes on the horizon, and many of us might not have foreseen this coming at all, even though there's tons to back this up concerning predictive programming and the astrology of the events, as well as some general feelings that we felt concerning things building up and getting to a certain stage. Regardless of what perspective you choose to take concerning this happening, whether we choose to look at it from the perspective of the current system that we live in, how it affects us one-to-one, or the bigger spiritual picture in terms of what's going on behind the scenes, it does not change that massive unrest is underway as things shift. Things shift in unprecedented ways and affect people by means of an altered states of consciousness. This is an interesting point. I've spoken on this before. An altered state of consciousness essentially can be induced by doing anything different to the norm. For example, a fast or drumming, as would happen in ancient shaman circles, changing a frequency or tone of music, going through a sensory deprivation period like in a tank, waking up somewhere different, induced through chemicals or drugs, as well as something like this. Mass media reporting on things, changing our reality in terms of what we think and what we believe, things shutting down, departing from the norm. These are very ripe areas for an altered state of consciousness, and with altered states of consciousness come massive shifts, because the veil is thinner and you are closer to information that you would not have otherwise had, because your system was not put under that type of stress, or you were not exposed to this type of thing. And in this case, it seems very clear that we are being asked to go inwards. When there is nowhere else to turn, when the external world manifests exactly what comes out from our subconscious, when we see around us the collective unrest, and we see the truth of the matter, of our freedoms stripped away, and that it was all an illusion of freedom to begin with, a long list of privileges, as George Carlin said, that gets shorter every year. We begin to see that the only freedom that truly exists is within us. Within us is that key to salvation. And we go inwards into isolation, and we can cut ties with things that we might not otherwise have considered, and that's where the altered state of consciousness comes in. What would have asked anybody to stop except everything breaking down? Sometimes we do it to ourselves. We keep going when we feel ill. We keep going when we feel unwell in a job or a relationship, and we're stubborn about it, and we don't want to stop. We maybe do anything, even artificial means, to keep ourselves going, such as taking medication, or refusing to ask for help, refusing to admit that there's a problem. And then, because you have not surrendered to the lesson when it came up in the beginning, when the body said, hey, I'm tired, I need time, or you need to look at something, a crash ensues where you are forced to look. You are forced to feel what you're actually feeling, or you can no longer work because you've worked yourself far too hard and now you collapse. Now, this is interesting in terms of a global collapse, with things completely shutting down, things that we have turned to as crutches for hundreds of years. I mean, what are the implications of the normal way of doing business and living shutting down? The implications of not having as much access to drugs and alcohol, the implications of turning inwards and more towards ourselves rather than engaging or distracting, as it might be. There's so much beauty and so much in the unseen that we're not yet aware of. There's so many perspectives to look at this from, but first and foremost, And the most beautiful things I'm seeing is people coming together to share what they know, to be together in this time of crisis, to make way for those that cannot speak for themselves, to look at things from a different perspective. I will quote Barbara Sher on her aspect concerning humans being problem solvers, and that when you give somebody the opportunity to solve your problem, or when you share with them a trouble that you're having because of a certain conflict or a certain obstacle, they cannot help but jump to conclusions and try to think of a solution for you and share it. I loved it because I find it very true. You know, you tell somebody anything that's not working for you, and that their minds are going into gear and trying to think up a way to make it better. And I think that we can use collectively that remarkable human prowess that we have, this ability to innovate, to create, to come together, and not just innovate on an individual level, but exactly this, to be able to reach out to another and help create a system for them or something that can make their life better. And in this time, that is exactly what we need. This shift of perspective, this shift in consciousness, this new way of doing things. It's uncharted terrain. Like, don't get me wrong, this is not in any way not terrifying or big or massive or chaotic. It is. All changes. Saturn, the planet of restrictions and limitations, is moving into Aquarius, an air sign. So, in a sense, we are funneling all of these ideas that we might have had, these dreams, this new age opportunity, into something tangible and practical. And in a sense, it first starts with a lockdown, a shattering of an old system, a breaking of the old. And that it brings unrest, it brings confusion. And there are some systems that breed fear, create mass panic. So if I'm to say anything about this right now, I will say that there is some information that is not grounded in truth, and in your body you can feel that it is baseless and fearful. And a lot of these narratives are pushed on people, and ultimately we react from the very traumas and fears that we have avoided and evaded for all these years. And the only way to heal, the only way to become who we really are, is to go through the heart, is to release these fears. It's to alchemize and transmute anything that has previously been held in the energy field. And sometimes we are